Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something that literally sounds like it's straight out of a dystopian sci-fi novel. But as we're going to see, it's actually detailed in ancient scriptures as an impending reality. We're looking at the end of the Kali Yuga. According to the 600-year-old prophecies of the Bhavishya Malika, human civilization is hurtling toward a massive systemic collapse. We're talking about a transition phase where the modern world goes incredibly, almost terrifyingly quiet. So let's just jump right in and see exactly what these texts have to say about surviving the silence.
Think about it. What actually happens when the grid goes silent forever? Imagine waking up tomorrow, no internet, zero cell service. You can't access your bank accounts, and the entire global supply chain has just ground to a halt. The Bhavishya Malika describes a coming period where this isn't just some temporary blackout you wait out. It's a permanent clearing away of modern institutions. And we really need to look at this not as some wild science fiction, but through the lens of these meticulously recorded texts.
All right, let's take a quick look at the preservers of the Malachi.
So these prophecies were written down over 6 centuries ago by the Panchasakhas, the 5 great sages of Odisha, India. But the person really decoding them for us today is Pandit Dr. Shri Kashinath Mishra. He's a highly revered scholar and Kathavachak from the famous Jajpur Mukhya Pandit lineage in Odisha. He's dedicated over 20 years of his life to shining a light on the eternal principles of Sanatana Dharma, and specifically bringing these profound prophecies of the Bhavishya Malika to a global audience. It's his rigorous expertise that gives us the foundation for everything we're breaking down in this explainer today.
And it's super important we establish the credibility of this massive preservation effort. As you can see, Bhavishya Malika teachings have been researched, preserved, and propagated extensively in India and internationally by Pandit Dr. Shri Kashinath Mishra and the Biswa Sanatan Dharma Seva Trust. Their exhaustive, boots-on-the-ground work guarantees that we're looking at authentic, scripture-forward translations. This lets us understand these ancient warnings exactly as they were originally written.
Next up, the collapse of modern institutions, or what's known as the Khandapralaya.
So what's actually prophesied to happen here? The texts describe us moving into a phase called a Khandapralaya, which basically translates to a partial dissolution. The Bhavishya Malika tells us we aren't facing some total planetary destruction where the whole Earth is just swallowed by water. Instead, it's a highly targeted systemic collapse of the very things that define modern human life. The Malika lays out this terrifying series of cascading failures. We're talking about banks and treasuries shutting down entirely, meaning your money is just trapped as useless digital numbers. Schools and universities closed permanently. The global internet completely fails as satellites literally die and fall offline. Factories just cease operations. It's crucial to note, these aren't just random isolated glitches. This is described as a deliberate systemic shutdown as the era transitions.
Now, the core reason for all this collapse is that our current era, the Kali Yuga, is essentially the Jantra Yuga, the age of machinery. It completely relies on electricity, petrol, diesel, and ultra-complex technology. And the Bhavishya Malika says this phase is coming to a definitive hard stop. The sheer fragility of an entire infrastructure that's completely dependent on these failing elements, well, it's about to be fully exposed.
To give you a really specific idea, the Malika records this pretty chilling detail. From 24, the calculating machines will turn upside down, computers and mobiles will stop working. Now, the text does emphasize that the exact timeline ultimately rests on the divine will of Lord Kalki, but the prophecy is crystal clear that even the most advanced supercomputers will become totally useless. All our digitized wealth, all our instant communication, it's just going to evaporate.
Which brings us to a fascinating contrast. How are people planning to survive this? The modern approach, as we all know, is usually hoarding physical wealth, digging these elaborate underground bunkers, and just stockpiling survival tech. But according to the Bhavishya Malika, that is completely futile. The actual survival mechanism is practicing Dharma, adhering to Vedic rules, living without violence, and performing daily prayers. The war chapters of the Malika aren't a military manual at all. They're actually a profound argument about what qualities actually survive an apocalypse.
Let's look at the numbers. The 640 million survivors. When this old order is totally swept away, who actually makes it into the next age? Let this number really sink in for a second. 640 million, 64 crore people. According to the Bhavishya Malika, out of a global population of roughly 8 billion right now, only this specific remnant will survive to enter the new age. That is a massive, sobering reduction, right? But the absolute most crucial detail here is how these 640 million are chosen. They aren't identified by what country they live in, how much money they have in the bank, or how deep their bunker is.
No. They are identified entirely by one concept: Dharma. Dharma means righteous conduct in harmony with divine law. It means living truthfully, absolutely not causing needless harm, and walking in step with the fundamental, pure order of the universe. According to the Bhavishya Malika, your alignment with Dharma, and literally nothing else, is what dictates who survives the impending fire and catastrophes.
So, what does practicing Dharma actually look like on a practical, day-to-day level? Well, the Malika lays out a very specific daily discipline. To secure protection, it says you must give up the consumption of meat, eggs, and alcohol, and embrace a completely pure, non-violent diet. It requires practicing Sandhya, which means praying at the 3 junctures of the day, chanting the divine name Madhava, reading the Srimad Bhagavat Mahapuran daily, and fundamentally adopting truth, love, kindness, and forgiveness into your actual character. It's an inner transformation, guys, not an external fortress.
Moving on to the dawn of the Sudharma Mahasangha.
So what actually happens after the collapse? Once those 640 million survivors are established, the texts describe this truly breathtaking rebirth of civilization following the devastating Khandapralaya. According to the writings, just 2 years after his incarnation, Lord Kalki, the avatar of Lord Vishnu, will inaugurate the Sudharma Mahasangha, and the entire purpose of this organization is to establish a brand new divine world order. Interestingly, the Lord won't preach directly. Instead, he's going to unite true devotees all across the globe through this Mahasangha to propagate the principles of the Satya Yuga, the age of truth.
In the geographical center of this new world, it's incredibly specific. The Bhavishya Malika reveals that Jajpur, Odisha, specifically the Baraja Kshetra, will serve as the future capital of the world. Yep, it is directly from this sacred location in eastern India that Lord Kalki and Goddess Lakshmi will guide the global administrative and spiritual systems.
The radical nature of this new society is honestly astounding. The constitution for the entire world, which is drafted by Lord Brahma and Lord Shankar, will be founded entirely on Vedic principles. And get this, most astonishingly, the justice system will have a complete absence of jails or punishments. Because the core values of truth and mercy will be absolute, there just won't be any need for a penal system. Governance is going to be overseen directly by Lord Kalki, aided by 100,000 devotees who are actually elevated to the status of kings.
And the sheer scale of this divine assembly, it is staggering. 330 million, 33 crore. The Bhavishya Malika describes that 33 crore gods and goddesses, who are actually currently living in human form, primarily in India, are going to survive the great transition. They will attain their true divinity and be physically present at the ultimate assembly of the Sudharma Mahasangha right there in Jajpur.
Finally, we move from the totally collapsed age of machinery right into the Mantra Yuga. The Bhavishya Malika explains that while our current electronic grids are going to fail completely, humanity isn't just going to be dumped back into the dark ages. Instead, we'll harness a technology based on the power of mantras. We're talking about a pure spiritual energy that is literally millions of times more powerful, reliable, and harmonious than today's destructive, failing electronics.
So I want to leave you with this thought. As we look at these incredibly meticulous prophecies of the Bhavishya Malika regarding this post-grid era, you really have to ask yourself, are you preparing your character or just your pantry for the coming changes? Because if these ancient texts are the ultimate guide to what survives, the depth of our compassion and our commitment to Dharma will matter so much more than anything we could ever physically stockpile. Thanks for joining me for this explainer today. Keep questioning and keep learning.